Okay, today's Chulin, Daf Lamed Aleph. We're going to start Daf Lamed Amid Beis by the Mishnah, about halfway down So the Mishnah Hashoichet. We had this Mishnah already before. Hashoichet Beis Roshim Ke'echad Shchitosik Sheir. If somebody shechts two heads together, so then Shchitosik Sheir, if you remember, we said is a lashon of B'diavad because this is still a hemshech of the kachim. That was one of the pshatim the Gemara said. Shnayim moichsum b'sakin. If two people are holding on to a sakin, v'sheichten afilu echad l'mayla v'echad l'mata Shchitosik Sheir. We had two pshatim in the Gemara. If we're talking about Shnayim moichsum b'sakin was right, the Gemara discussed is the pshat is that two people are holding on to two different knives and they shecht it at the same time, or the word is two are holding the same sakin and they from two different ends. Yeah. Hit is esaroish bevas achas. If he chopped off the head, so this is regular hadrasa. Psula, this is drasa. Hoya shoichet the hit is esaroish bevas achas. This is the halacha that we had about shchita that he's supposed to be melech umevi. But if he's, let's say he was shechting and he did it in one go, either only just a hilacha or just a hava. If there's the share of malei tzava, the Gemara is going to explain what that is. Kshera. If he had two heads together, two heads right next to each other, and he was matiz with one go, the Gemara is going to discuss what the share of malei tzava is. This is by hittis if he only did one go, either a go or a come. But if he was going back and forth, so it's no problem. It doesn't matter. He can keep on going, and even if it's tiny, we'll see what kosher is. Afilu bizemel, which is a blade, a razor blade. So how do we know that what? That it has to be b'mshicha. Da makra chetz shechoit l'shoinam mirma daber. Since it says chetz shechoit, right? The pasuk is comparing a baal lashon hara to somebody who shoots a chetz, right? A chetz is somebody who shoots from the vitins, who shoots far away. That's the what's called it the metaphor of a chetz is always that it's from the vitins, it's far away, right? As opposed to a sayif is right in front of you, right? Is right in front of you. That's a sayif. A chetz is far away, so that's what the lashon hara is, the ability to harm somebody from the vitins. You just talk about him behind his back, and that's what you're doing lashon hara. That's the chetz shechoit, right? And that's chetz shechoit. That's the since it compares a shchita to, it calls a chet that it's a shechting. So vice shechting is the going way, not stabbing. I just want to say, talking about this metaphor of that a chet is from the vitins, whereas a cherev is close by. There's a famous Rashi, famous medrash famous targum that Rashi brings down in Vayechi when it says b'charbi ubekashti. So Rashi says bitzlusi uvusi. Yeah, famous what? Yeah, so there's a lot of Torah on what it is. So I wanted to tell it like this: What's b'charbi ubekashti? Bitzlusi uvusi. What's the word? Because very gishmak pshat. Mamash pashta pshat. I think it's mamash pshat tava. Because a cherev is close by. You're right here, and you stab. Right? That's a keshes is you're throwing from the vitins. You're here, and you shoot far away. What's the difference in between tzlusi and busi? Tzlusi is a tefillah is shmereser. Shmereser you're oimel l'fnei hamelech. And then busi is you stop in the middle of the day and somebody has a bakasha, so he throws a bakasha. He's not oimel l'fnei hamelech, and after it became we could still speak to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's very gishmak. Becharbi ubekashti. But cherev is right in front of you. Oimel l'fnei hamelech, that's tzlusi. And ubekashti is from the vitins, that's busi. Stam bakasha. What? Beautiful pshat. Yeah. So that's this thought. Okay. Anyway, because it's something more right. Tana Dvei Rabbi Shmuel, v'shachat, ein v'shachat, elo moshach, v'cheinu oimer zahav shachot. Like it says, zahav shachot. This is where they would make these. They would make threads made from gold, right? So it's like pulling, like it's also a lashon of pulling. What was wrong with the first pasuk? Then I needed a second pasuk. Right? Maybe I would think that the pshat is that maybe it's not shachut, not a lashon of shchita, it's shechut. Zav, that it's nitve kechut, that it was spun like a chut. That's what the lashon of shchot means. Not that the pshat is that it's a lashon of pulling, of pulling, right? Tashma chet shechot l'shainam over there is clearly a lashon of going. Hava. Zok the Gemara. Rava have I love this Gemara. Rava have a bodik like Girei Rabbi Yochanan ben Bar Tachlifa. He was boidik the spear of Rabbi Yochanan bar Tachlifa, v'shachat ba'oifa, b'hadei de parach. I'm already into Santa Gemara. Very interesting. Rabbi Yochanan bar Tachlifa would shoot an arrow, and he made sure that the arrow was a kosher or chalif, and this way up in the air, the shechita would happen up in the air, and then the animal would flutter down to the floor. I'm already getting to Santa Gemara. Yeah, and this is really opening up a murdiga understanding in this parak and the next parak. Yeah, first of all, let's see if we could first of all give the picture of what this looks like. The picture here we have a picture of this bird is flying, and he would shoot the chaitz, and the chaitz would shecht on its way. Yeah. And the Gemara is going to say how we know that the shechting was a kosher shechita. Maybe it was a drasa. We'll see. Maybe it's a challah that the Gemara is going to be worried about. Yeah. But I just before we go weiter, what we have to understand is that all the Gemaras say in this parak and next parak are going to be busy with a certain basic problem that they had in those days. They wanted to eat chayis and oifis. Chayis and oifis are in the wild, right? So there's two processes. You have to capture something, but capture something without making it into a treifa. That's the difficulty. That's the problem that we're trying to solve. So we're going to see later on. There's going to be certain cases of certain kinds of bird traps that the bird falls on the floor, make sure it doesn't become an afula. These kind of issues, or shooting on a tzvi, but shooting it in the kloyos, right? All these kind of issues that we have an issue that you want to disable and capture and hunt an animal to eat, but you can't make it into a treifa. That's the difficulty, right? Right? A guy has no such a problem. He kills it and finishes young and he eats it, right? But a yid that has to have a shechita, he has to be able to catch the animal, trap the animal, but trap the animal, and the animal should be still edible. That's this issue. That's what we're trying to solve over here. That's why he did this eitzah, married the eitzah. If I could kill two birds with one stone, pun intended over here, by sharpening a chaitz and shechting at the same time is you solve the problem. There's a Tosfos later on, a very interesting Tosfos later on, where Tosfos says that the Gemara is talking about if an animal attacks, so the question is if it goes in and out. Because so Tosfos says that somebody wanted to give Zechan Eitzah, wanted to say, Tosfos is suggesting that if Lu Yitzor, an animal, captured something, you should be able to go and shecht it. So the Sichos Chulin says, what's the case? The case is somebody happens to have his chalif in his pocket. He walks out of his house, and hey, look at that! There's an animal attacking. He wants to run over and shecht. Yeah, Avada, that's not what's going on over here. What's going on over here? Here's another way of tackling this problem. This is the problem. How are you going to hunt? How are you going to hunt if you hunt something and then eat it, it's not going to be kosher. So the eitzah is if you have a hunting dog, there's such a thing as a hunting dog, right? You have and you'll have you'll have a hunting dog that will catch it, and that's what they do nowadays. It catches something, and then you go and get it, right? So you ride down, or a hunting bird. They have hunting birds, yeah, that hunt, and then the rider comes running down and catches it and kills it. So here's the Eitzah. If the Tosfos wants to say that this is how you'll be able to hunt, to eat, by having the animal go and capture it, hold it down for you. When you come down there, you'll shech. Right? This is the same issue. This is the issue that we're trying to solve. Okay.
Ways that not make it a trick.
Right, that's the thing. So that's why here we have a Murray the Gate, so that was this plan. Okay. So the Gemara, but the problem is, Frek the Gemara problem. Frek the Gemara. So I don't know, I just stam agavorcha. The Gemara is not worried about drasa. It's not going to be a problem of doiris. Why is it not going to be a problem of doiris? Why is it not going to be a problem of doiris? Yeah, the animal is flying in this direction, right? The animal is flying, and he's going to go into it. Why is that not a problem of drasa? Yeah, the was going to ask a different problem, a problem of chalada. That's going to be what happened to drasa? What happened to drasa? Chopping. Yeah? Let's see the end of the Gemara, maybe we'll see. Yeah. Maybe it's chalada. So the Gemara is simple. Chazinan gidfi the miframi. Yeah? That the pshat is that if you see the so here the what's called has the, yeah, if you over here you see that if you look at here's the what's it called, the bird's feathers are cut, right? If it was did a chalada, so then it would have never been cut. It would have gone through, and it would have never cut the feathers. But if you see the feathers are cut, so obviously it went through the feathers. So obviously it was not a chalada. It was a proper shechita. Very gishmak. How you know, a simple test to know if the what's called it, if it was done with a chalada or not, right? If it was a chalada, it would be a chalada where it went in mifnim, and obviously once the feathers on the neck would not cut. Yeah, that would not cut. But what's the eitzah with drasa? How do we know that it's not that it's not doiris? What's the word? How do we know that it's not doiris? That's a shtickle time, no? My point is, do we see from here that it doesn't matter as long as it's a shtickle mashma, and I could tell you even where the makar would be. It's a shtickle mashma that as long as you go in the going and coming action, it's okay if you push down, or no? Is the sheikhet allowed to push down as long as he's moving? He's moving, or no? He's not allowed to. He's not allowed to give any push, and the grass raya would be from a chetz itself. A chetz itself has some sort of a point, right? It's not necessarily straight. It's not straight. It is somewhat curved, so it is giving some sort of a push down, and that and the makar for Mashiach is from kites. So that alone is a raya. As long as it's moving or coming, that's still considered a mashicha. Even if I'm pushing down, that would be a shtickle raya. And memela, I don't care that the bird is flying into it. As long as I don't care that there is an action the other way. As long as the knife is moving this way, it's okay. That would be a shtickle. I think it's a shtickle chiddush. Okay. So to my right. So the Gemara, problem. I have no problem. What am I going to do? What's going to be with Kisei Adam? What's going to be with Kisei Adam? Yeah, the bird gets shot out of the air. Yeah, he shoots it out of the air, and it comes fluttering down to the floor, and he gets his meal, but very gishmak. But what's going to be with the Kisei Adam, with the blood that's in the middle of nowhere? Oh, Teretz says, no problem, we'll go over and we'll cover it. From Rab Zera, Rav, Hashoichit, Tzarchit, and Offer Lamata, Va'offer Lamaila. You have to put Offer Lamata, Va'offer Lamaila. Meaning you have to put dirt on under it and dirt on top of it. Now Rashi says offer means tzarich sheyitin offer means tichoyach lamata. It has to be softened dirt. In other words, because otherwise, what do you mean tzarich sheyitin offer lamata? There's always offer under. The Teretz says it has to be that it's somewhat softened. There has to be something. Shenemar v'chiseu be'offer offer lenemar ela be'offer. Mulam sheshechet tzarich sheyitin offer lamata v'offer lamayla. And for the Gemara, the mazmin le offer the kula piska. That he was mazmin le, he prepared the offer the kula piska. So now over here, Rashi is very, very interesting. Rashi says the mazmin le offer the kula piska is like Rashi offer kol abeka haya masia. He would move it around v'koitish and chop it up. Oi shahaya offer tichuach. It already was soft. Umezamnei bepelakach. What's going on over here? What's going on over here in Rashi? Yeah, so two different eitzes. Rashi is mesupik what the halacha of offer is. What's going on over here? Rashi says Rashi is mesupik what. So why didn't he tell us in the Iker when it says that tzarich sheet and offer lamata offer lamayla? There are those that learn in Rashi that Rashi is mesupik. It's two lashonos in Rashi. What the chiyuv of offer lamata is, right? But at the Chura it's not mashma because Rashi only said it in the Maskana. The mazmol la after the kula piska Rashi says his two pshatim, but in the Havamina he didn't say it. So it would be mashma to me that Rashi goes like this. V'chiseu ba'afar means hatzoichet tzorich sheyitain afar lamato. Rashi understands two things. First of all, that you have to be mazmin, and it has to be offer. How do I know? How do I know the two things? Because offer is mashma soft, because otherwise there's always ground under. What's the lashon of be'afar? And also it says v'chiseu. So from the v'chiseu, be'afar tells us that you have to do two things. You have to be mazmin, softened ground. So Rashi very gishmak. So the mazmin la'afar the kula piska means that he akopane, he softened it, and if it was already soft, he akopanim did the second step that he was mazmin it. But right and this way he was makayim both halachas of the dirt under the kisei adam. Zokti marvait. What's this halacha? We said that the chalav has to be malei tzavar. So malei tzavar, what does malei tzavar mean? It's mashma. Malei tzavar means it's the size of one neck, one neck. Yeah. Zok Reb Zera, malei tzavar v'chutz l'tzavar. In other words, malei tzavar doesn't mean one neck's worth. It means besides the neck's worth, a whole nother neck's worth. No, I'm sorry. The Gemara is going to be something. Malei tzavar v'chutz l'tzavar. Reb Zera said it means malei tzavar v'chutz l'tzavar. It has to be the full neck and somewhat chutz l'tzavar. Doesn't mean that it's two sides of the neck. The havale trait tzavari, it should be the size of two necks. I don't know. Doesn't mean malei tzavar and a little bit. He was shechting two necks. In the next case of the Mishnah, it says he was shechting two necks. If there's one malei tzavar, it's kosher. My malei tzavar echad. Ilay malei tzavar echad. If every time it says malei tzavar, it means the neck itself that you're shechting. V'suloi hashta bebehema achas bina malei tzavar v'chutz l'tzavar. By behema achas, we already established. Reb Zera said that any malei tzavar and somewhat afterwards. B'shtei behemas sagilu ke malei tzavar echad. Elo pshita malei tzavar elo pshita. By in the sefer when it says malei tzavar echad, it means one tzavar besides the two necks. That the pshat is that in both cases we're talking about, besides that neck, I need one whole other malei tzavar that I should be able to do the mashiach, right? Because we're talking about without doing the locha ve'eva, and I'll show you the picture. This is malei tzavar v'chutz l'tzavar k'malei tzavar, right? This is the neck, right? This is the neck. You have a cross section of the neck with the mafrekis is on the bottom, and on the top is where you have the kana and the veshet with the two big vridin over there. And the chalif is molei tzavar and chutz l'tzavar k'molei tzavar, so it's very gishmak, right? And this would have been in the havmin, it would have been a molei tzavar chutz l'tzavar mashu. When we come out that you need a molei tzavar chutz l'tzavar k'molei tzavar, only because I'm doing a whole halacha vayva. But if I'm not doing, I'm only doing one hataza, only one way. But otherwise, it could be tiny, right? So the Gemara, next Gemara. Right? But if he's moilech maybe it could be tiny. We're talking about a izemel she'ein loy karnayim. It would apparently, for some reason, the Rashi says for beautification purposes, they would have these little razor blades. It would have in the back of it these some kinds of little karnayim, like horns. I don't know. This is how he gives a picture. Yeah, here are these izemo, meaning if you look at these this thing has karnayim over here. The regilon hayulas is the lashon of Rashi. The regilon hayulas is kimin karnayim lizemo leno al gabeim matin letzad roisham. Here's this izemel that the blade is on the bottom, but on the top there would be some kind of a karnayim for prettiness. It would have this thing sticking up. So memela. And the problem is if you have those karnayim, there's a chashash when you're going into the neck. It might end up being machled the simonim from the top, and therefore you can't use a izemo sheyesh lekarnayim. That's the halacha. So the Gemara, around nash izemo sheyesh lekarnayim. Amalei Rav Bredi Rav Lavira, Rav Menashe. Rav Bredi Rav Lavira asked Rav Menashe, "Machtamai. What's the halacha if you want to use a pen?" And there's some Rishonim that say machta is talking about a machta that has a bottom. The bottom is very, very small. It doesn't come to a point. It comes to a tiny little straight line. Here's the Ran. The Ran says machta means this case. It doesn't mean a machat, a pit that it comes to a point. It means this way that it has somewhat of a roichev. And the question is, if I could use that roichev and go up and down with that tiny little with that machat. That's the more shayla. In fact, the Gemara, machta mai, amalei machta mivza baza. Yeah, mavza mivza baza. That what? That it's going to stech and it's going to poke holes, and since it's going to break holes, so in Mela it's a problem. Yeah, Frank the Gemara, and what's the halacha with machta de ushbechi mai? So here the metzias is a little bit schwer to know. The taich of machta de ushbechi is the machat for those that make for shoemakers. That's what a machta de ushbechi is. It would seem that the machta de ushbechi somehow the sides were also sharp. Yeah, here he has a the lashon of Rashi. I'll show you what it's mirtzahat ratzanim are shoemakers. Shepiyosav chadudim v'choitchin chutei atvar. Somehow this machad would also had the ability of cutting threads. So here's his picture. Let me show you his picture. Here's the machta de ushbechi. See, you see this machta he would it would somehow on the sides would also be sharp, and you see there's a sharpness to the side, and he wants to cut it with that sharpness. So the Gemara, Machtadosh Bechi Mai Amalei Tanina Afilu Koshu. What do you mean? So we state now Mishnah Afilu Koshu. My love Machtadosh Bechi. So the Gemara, no, Loi Izemel. When it says Afilu Koshu, it means Afilu Izemel. But Avada Machtadosh Bechi is going to be puzzle. Fact the Gemara Izemel Behed Yekutani Law. By Izemel it says Mefresh now Mishnah that Izemel is good. So the Gemara Prushika Mefresh. My Koshu Izemel. Sagt die Gemara Hachinam Mistabra, die sagen doch macht durch Bechi, hast du machst durch Bechi Sharia, Izemel be boy. Why does the Mishnah have to fear us Izemel? It must I feel Izemel. What do we have to say? You could even use something even small, even a macht durch Bechi. Sagt die Gemara, no, it's just kein Raya, you can't be make that deal because Izemel tzricha. Sagt der Chamina ligs Izemel shein lekanaim, matl Izemel sheish lekanaim, kamash malon. So the reason why the Mishnah had to read us Izemel is maybe for a different reason. That the shot is to tell you that what I would think that maybe we goyzer Izamol she'en lekanayim atu Izamol she'esh lekanayim, since it was the derech was to make Izamlim with kanayim and Izamol she'esh lekanayim avad also, so maybe they would goyzer also not to use Izamlim at all, right? So the Mishnah had to read us Izamol, so you can't bring a raya from there to one way if a machta the ushbechi is okay or not. So the Gemara weiter, yeah. Sagt the Gemara, sagt the Heilige Mishnah, Nafla sakin v'shachat. If let's say the sakin fell and it shechted, afa pisha shachta kedarka, even though it was umshicha, it went down, psula. Shenema v'zavachta v'achalta, masha ata zavechata eichel. It has to be that you did it. It has to be some sort of an action. Yeah. We'll see. Sagt the Gemara, we'll see. Sagt the Gemara, Taima. Two tzadim in the Rajba about nafla. When it says nafla sakin v'shachta, so what are we talking about? We're talking about something, right? The Gemara says. Let's see the Gemara. You'll see in a second. Sagt the Gemara, Taima the nafla hahi pila huk sheiram. Let's say somebody threw down a knife. Shoom, he just threw it down, right? So he was mechaven to throw it down, but he wasn't mechaven for shchita. So is that good or not? So we're medayik hayi pilak sheira, even if he wasn't mechaven for shchita. Right, man, Tana the Leibin Kavan L'Shchita. My Rav Nasan, we had this before. The Tanya Yosha Zira the Min Chavraya. Rashi says that his name was Yosha Zira, and he was the Min Chavraya from Yeshiva. We had this Machlokes Rashi and Tosfos how we learn it. It's if it's Yosha Zira the Min Chavraya from the Yeshiva, or it's Zira the Min Chavraya. Yeah, and Tosfos says Zira Chavraya. Tosfos learns that Chavraya is a town. Not that the pshat is that he was from, it's not a lashon of yeshiva. Zarak sakin lenoitzu b'kaisel. This is a similar case, like Hipila, where he threw a sakin as a dart against the wall. Lenoitzu b'kaisel v'holcha v'shachta kedarker nasem achshav chamin poislim. And who tani levu amal alach gan nasen. That what the loch is like nasen taka that you don't need kavana for shchita. We're going to get back to the Rajba in a second. In fact, more v'amra Rava Chodazimna. Rava already said at one time that halach is like a that there's established like a nasan. You know, did nah and the kulon sheshach tuvachem roim nasan shchitas ksheira. Because we don't have kavan l'shchita because these are chereshet v'katan. Rava Nasanid. So the Gemara tzricha. Diashmin on hasam. Yashua. Tzricha diashmin on hasam mishum dikar mechaven l'shum chaticha ba'olam. Aval hachad likar mechaven. He's not mechaven for cutting at all. He's just he pila. He just throw it down to likar mechaven emoloi. Diashmin on hacha. And if I would just say in our case, mishum dikasim mikorach ben das, l'maisa ben das has a kavan. Aval hasam to likasim mikorach ben das emoloi tzricha. So before we discuss this shmooze, there's a very, very. I just want to before we go back to the Rajba, I just want to tell you there's a Murdi Yamshel Shloim over here, which is very negaya. The Yamshel Shloim says that the pshat is that the reason why it works, and maybe that's the teretz to your question. The Yamshel Shloim says it works out of Stomach Lishmas, kind of along this. That the pshat is that it goes. The pshat is because the stump of a shchita. This was oimid for l'shem shchita. And Mela Zok that in Afkamina will be the marshal. If you had, it was a by Yosef Es B'nai, the marshal, where it wasn't oimid to do a shchita because Lamaisa, or let's say on Shabbos, where this animal was not oimid for shchita. So Mela, it won't be kosher because you don't have the stam l'shma. It's such a kind of a halacha, right? Such a halacha. So you want to say that that's the teretz. One second, let's keep shutoi. The Mishnah is like this. The Mishnah says nafla sakin, right? Nafla sakin. What does nafla sakin mean? It fell off. It fell. So was a person involved? B'chlal? No, right? Person was. It fell from the stam. The wind came. It was on the window, so and it fell down, right? That's nafla. Now the other extreme is hipila, where at least he did mikoichay. So now what's the middle darga of nafla miyadei? What will be in that case? So Rajba is musopik. Now the shaila is in the Rajba Gufa, and the Rajba is musopik. In the Rajba Gufa, the shaila is when he's talking about nafla, if the pshat is he had absolutely no kavanah b'chlal, that's where there's mamish. They really dissect exactly what we're talking about over here. There's a Rosh here, the Rosh is machmir. You need some sort of a thing. If the imloy miskav and shum davar leikayin b'zavachta.
That's the pashas.
Yeah, but we'll see the Gemara. Okay, there's a lot of every little darga is a little bit. They're what's called. But like upon him, that's the Rajba. Okay, but that's important. That's for sure. What the halach by naflam nasakin is mefurish, right? And to shows he wants to be a medayik lashon Rajba because he says shekol shenafla asakin miyadoi ba nefila mikoyach ben das or shchitos ekshera. So the Torah show wants to know what do you mean, right? What do you mean? The Vaisi he says is Mikoyach ben Das. What do you mean Mikoyach ben Das? It's not a Koyach ben Das. He didn't do any Koyach. He just dropped it. Okay. Anyway, Bekitza, I am Sham. Yeah. Weiter. Sagt ihr mal weiter. Okay. Itba. Neither shenensa v'tavla. We'll see what it means. Nensa v'tavla. The Gemara is going to discuss at the end what it means. Nensa somehow she was forced, so it was shlei b'kavana that she was in the mikvah. Neither shenensa v'tavla. Amar Rabbi Amarav tohir lebeisa v'asur lechol b'chuma. That means, in other words, Anita has two problems. First of all, she's asura lebayla, and second of all, she's and it's tumatayra legabi chuma. So she's tohir lebeisa. But so b'negei beisa she's tar, even though it was like kavana. Mashenkin when it comes to chuma, she's still tamei. Rabbi Yechina ma'af lebeisa loy tahara. That she's not tar either, even lebeisa. Amali Rav Nachman l'Rav de Amat tahara lebeisa v'asura lechol b'chuma. What's the pshat? How can it be that Rav holds that legabe beisa, which is a sekaris, she's tahira. When it comes to lechol b'chuma, which is only isa misa b'dei shemayim, which is less than karis, it's okay. Oven karis hutra isa misa miboy amale. He says no. Baila chulinu. This is the big rule that the pshat is when it comes to kachim boy kavana chulin boy kavana, and baila is considered chulin. It's in the realm of chulin and memela. Since Baila Chulin, who Chulin Leboy Kavana. Umina Timra. How do we know this rule? That Chulin Leboy Kavana. Umina Timra Ditnan. Gal Shenitlash. Gal Shenitlash is a wave that up was uprooted from the yam, and it's up in the air. It's 40 saw. Big wave. And it fell on a person or on kelim. They're tar. My love. that Adam don't mean the Kalim. Ma Kalim delay mechavni. Kalim don't have any kavana. So obviously we're talking about shlei b'kavana. Afu Adam delay b'kavana. Nami delay b'kavana. So the Gemara was right. Don't be yeshuv mitzvah askinan. Maybe we're talking about in both cases that a person is waiting. He sees it coming and he's expecting it, and somehow he projects the kavana on the gal that way. The Kalim Dumida Adam, Ma Adam the Bin Kavana of Kalim Nami Kamachav Lu Adam. Vichitain Ba Vichitain. It won't. Yeah. And if you're telling me that we're talking about Yeshua Mitzapah, so he has Kavanah, so what's the greatest Chiddush? What's the Chiddush of that a Gal Shanitlash is Tomei? That what? There's halacha. Rashi learns a Chadl, but bottom line is of a Chadlis is that it's a stream going down. If it's a stream going down, so then it's not kosher, because it is a. Rashi learns that it doesn't have a. It's not, since it's going down b'koyach, so therefore it's considered that it doesn't have a chibur, right? Or, and Tosfos learns it's al zoichlin. But the bottom line is, it's a stream going down is possible. So the shaila is by chad l'shal geshamim. I would think that a gal shel nitlash is also possible because it's dumit echad l'shal geshamim. Inami ligzar roshin atu kipin. That means like this: the gal shel nitlash is only good when it's already on the floor. When it's already on the floor and it comes down and smashes on you, so it's attached to the ground. Mashenka, when it's up in the air, when it's still keeping, when it's still in a dome, right? Right? It's still like a yarmulke, keep him, right? So then, and you threw something in there, then it's not kosher. So memela ligza, I would think ligza rosh not to keep him. Kamash one like gazinan. So memela there is a chiddush over here, even if it is b'kavana. So the Gemara. Oh, and how do I know that I can't be matul in the keeping? Did not matul b'rosh matul in the keeping. She'em matul ba'avir. She'em, yeah, she'em matul ba'avir, because up in the air the keeping is avir. Okay, so tomorrow, so memel we can't bring a right from this case, because this case maybe we're talking about that is machavni. Ella chulun loy by kavana no on it nan perish enough lusecham samayim. If let's say Paris fell into lusecham samayim, so male if they fell into lusecham samayim, so it's clearly shloim kavana. They fell in. There was no kavana, right? Upasha mishi adav tameyois v'not lon, and somebody his hands were tummy and he came and took them out, right? So now we have a big problem. His hands are tummy, and if these Paris were hukshal kabel tumai, they falling into this water, so then they become tummy. So that's the question. So we want to know what's the status of his hands and what's the status of the Paris. So we say yadav tahiros. His hands, even though he put it in there shloi b'kavana, he put it in there just to get out the kalim. It's shloi b'kavana, but that's still tahiros. U'Paris and a b'chiyutan. He didn't want the Paris to be wet, and therefore they're not hukshal kabel tumah. So the Gemara, right? So you have both milas. Sai yadav tayrus and sai peres and b'chiyutan. Ve'em b'shvil sheyotchu yadav tahayros. This is very interesting. The Rashash puts in a girsa, and he doesn't point out that if you look in Rashi, it's mamish mafurish like that. It says yadav twice. You have to say twice. You have to be garish yadav twice. Then b'shvil sheyutchu yadav tahirus uperes b'chiyutan, which means that if let's say his kavana was to wash his hands when he put it in, so even though his kavana was to wash the hands, not to wash the peres b'laib b'kavana from there, it blaibs a sofer b'kavana, and the mela they are hochshel kabotoma, but it's not really in this case. It's not so gefel because his hands are tahirus. So what do we see from here? We see from here that in the ratio of the case, so even though shloi b'kavana is yadav tahiros, and we're assuming that that's legabe chulin. How could you say that? Tava l'chulin v'hochsak l'chulin asa l'maiser. So we're assuming that tava l'chulin v'hochsak l'chulin means that he had a kavanah for chulin. That was his intention. He was getting to chulin. That's why it's asa and that's the case. And it still says. Hochsak in lehochsak loy, so vaisle shleim kavan is not good. Hachikama afal pisha hochsak lechulin, even though aidei tvila lechulin, meaning without kavana, still also lemais eisvei tava v'loy hochsak ki'ilu loy taval. Yeah, it says mefurish that if he's taval v'loy hochsak, it's ki'ilu loy taval. So what does it mean? My love, ki ilu loy tava klal, which is mashma that he's what that taka since he was tava without any intention of becoming tar, and therefore that's why he's loy tava. Ki loy tava is like nothing. My love, ki loy tava klal. It's not like ki loy tava lemaisa, tava lechulin. Yep. So. We're matra that kilo tava doesn't mean kilo tava klal. It means kilo tava lemaisa, but avadi is tava lechul. In fact, the Gemara, so the Gemara, who sava d'chui kamat chile? He thought that this is a dichui. The Maisa Mishnah says kilo tava, and you're going to say kilo tava lemaisa, but the avol tava lechulin. So who sava d'chui kamat chile? Nafak. Dak the Ashkach. He went out and he found some mafurish brayse the Tanya. Tava lehosik muta, tava lehosik muta lechulin vasel lemaisa. Okay. So this is the makar for the raya that avada that l'chulin you don't need loy by kavana, and that's the pshat. Why by that's why Rav says that by isha shenenza she's muteres labaylim, she's asur l'truma. Let it be a kasha Rabbi Yochanan that we had him first Shabraisa. Let me have to yufta Rabbi Yochanan. Amalei Rabbi Yochanan. Who the Amak Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef Enechanami we have a Mishnah that says that Chulin boy kavana, but the Maisa is another Mishnah Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef that holds that Chulin is boy kavana. The time Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef v'chubeis my tam loy mashenis. What are we talking about over here? We're talking about Tzaras HaBegodim, and by Tzaras HaBegodim it says you should wash it, and then you masker it for 7 days, and then after that, if it's kosher, so then what do? You wash it again, and the second time of washing is the Taira. So over there it says when it says v'chubas, it says v'chubas shenis. So why does it say shenis? Why do we have to point out? Why do we have to say that it's shenis? We already said before that you washed it. Now you're washing again. Obviously it's shenis. What's the shenis? My time alem shenis. Makish tachbois is shniel, tachbois is rishona. Ma tachbois is rishona. The first time that it's washing, it's ledas. It's clearly from the pasuk. It says v'tziva hakoyim v'tier, which we darshan means that you have to do with intention. After tachbois is shniel ledas. That the second time also has to be intention. Ma lalom be'inon das koyin. Can we also learn out that the second one needs a tziva from the kohen because there's v'tziva kohen, right? Avkan bin and das kohen. Tamalei v'tier mikom kohen. So akaponim. So Rabbi Yonasan, Rabbi Yochanan is going to hold like this. Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef that holds that even though over here we're talking about chulin, we're talking about this guy's sweater. Still, we say that the pshat is that it needs kavana for tefillah. Maskel that I've seen by Ashi. Rabbi Yochanan. How could it be Rabbi Yochanan holds that I need tefillah for chulin? Rabbi Yochanan halach is Mishnah. Yeah, Rabbi Yochanan says holds halach is Mishnah. Utna now Mishnah. Naflas hakem v'shachato. Hav b'sheshachto kedaka pisula v'avin hambam. And we asked, time in the nafla. Hay pilo hu ksheira. I've avgav loy mechavin. Ve'amina matan loy boy kavan l'shchita. Amar Rav Reb Nachsan he. Right. So how could it be that Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rabbi Yonasan that you need kavana even by chulin? So tomorrow, b'shchita afil Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef. B'shchita afil Rabbi Yonasan ben Yosef. It says v'zavachta by kachim, which tells you that by kachim and he needs vicha and it has to be and the misasik is possible. But yeah, v'rabanan ni the loy beinan kavana l'zvicha l'chaticha beinan. You need chach. It's true. The Torah knocked chulin down a peg, but it's not a ganza miyat that you don't need anything. It says you don't need you need a kavana at least to cut something. It doesn't have to be a kavana for zvicha. Amar Rav B'Hazak Kinu Reb Nasan Reb Banan. Yeah, over here, this is where Reb Nasan seems much more mistaber, and that's and we take a pass on Reb Nasan. Reb Nasan Reb Banan miksev v'chatachta. So me'echtesa to go say that you don't need that you do need a lashon of chaticha, that you need a chaticha. It says zavachtiksev ibay kavana lechaticha afilu lezvicha nami liboy. If I need kavana, I should for chaticha I should need a zvicha also. In other words, ilay bein a kavana lezvicha lechaticha nami liboy. Me'echtesa to be mechalik and say that I don't need a kavana for zvicha, but I need akoponim. Let's finish off the Gemara. What's the case that a nida shenensa v'tavla ilay mit the onza chaveta va'atvala that her friend forced her into the mikvah, kavana de chaveta, kavana ma'al yasihi, that should be considered a kavana ma'al yasihi. V'oid, b'tuma nami yachla, dit nam we have him for a shemish, nacharesh v'ashoit v'asum v'shenit v'daita, im yesh lan pichos, misaknes oison, misaknes, if they have a pikeach, being masada, taking sure that they do the b'dikas adam, etc., then and making sure they go in the mikvah, oichus b'tuma. Amra Papa, Liram Nasin, Shenaflim and Agesha, Rabanan, Sheyarda, Lahaker. Like Red Nasin, that we need nothing. It's even she just fell off the Gesher, and that's Shenensa. And like Rabanan, that I need a kapanim, a kavana lechatija. The word is Sheyarda Lahaker. She went down to cool herself off, and that would be that would be the case of Nenza. So now Rashi says in Shiyada Lahaker, Rashi says V'loy litvol v'nafla kula l'seichamayim. What's right? Why is Rashi saying that? Yeah, why is Rashi saying that? The Teretz is, I would say, this is, because the Mishnah says Shenetza. Where's the Netza? Yard Lahaker is not Netza.
You went.
What?
You went with that.
Yeah. So the Teretz is, and the Teretz Rashi saying Amori the Chiddush that's going to blind. That's going to be enough. If she's Yard Lahaker, even if she's Nafla afterwards, it doesn't matter as long as I had a Yard Lahaker. Even though, why is it Kumtois? But it's mafurish, right? Since this is it's like a kavanas chaticha. Since there was a kavanas chaticha, even though there wasn't kavanah for the whole thing.
We might have